Nobody wants to hear a woman talking about a batting stance, and people don't want to hear that anyway. They can see that. But it's not, what pitch did you strike out at? It's, why did you swing at that? You know better than that. And I'd get those kinds of stories, and I'd go to a hitting coach and say, why can't he hit that ball down and away? Why is he swinging at it? And they'd tell me. And then you look at it, and then you can bring that to the broadcast.
That's baseball, Suzyn. It's a phrase we hear often on WFAN radio broadcasts of the New York Yankees by John Sterling. And by the way, Suzyn knows baseball. Suzyn Waldman, the color analyst on Yankees radio broadcasts since 2004 with Sterling, fell in love with the game when she was a young girl growing up in Boston watching Ted Williams. But now she's covered the Yankees for over 30 years. And it all started when she went to her FAM bosses and said, let me go to games. I can get quotes. I can get stories. She did, and she hasn't stopped, as we learn by going behind the mic with John and Suzyn.
What I do in calling the games is very much what I did as a reporter. My relationships with the players are what I could bring to the booth.
Suzyn has taken the role, and she has discarded some things, added some things, where she is now down to science.
I can bring something to the booth that guys don't, because I'm emotional and people want to know why. I want people to see these players as people. They're not stats. They're not their exit velo. They're not their war or whip or whatever the heck they're doing now. They're people.
She's always well prepared. Obviously, you know, wants to know how everything is on the field and you know, away from the field.
Dellin Betances, I know everything that he went through from the time he couldn't throw strikes. I was here when he walked people his first major league debut and people booed him. I know what that did to him. I know what that did to his family because I asked. And it's a long time ago, but if you have the background with these guys, I think that's what people want to hear.
When the microphones are off, Waldman tells me she and Sterling are, quote, like an old married couple. They first met at WFAN in 1987 when Waldman was doing 2020 updates and Sterling came in to host a show. They've been friends ever since, becoming full-time radio partners in 2004. Because of their long games, the travel, the hours, and their rich respect for one another, they've become family.
We read a lot. We like the same music. We finish each other's sentences. We were brought up a lot alike. And so we just became friends.
We have a relationship where we actually speak to each other on the off days, or in the winter, we probably speak 3-4 times a week. So we get along unbelievably well. She's a great partner.
So much history. Is there any one moment or particular games that still stand out to you as the best, or the ones that you were just so honored to call?
Well, Suzyn and I always say that 1996 was our favorite year. And they appointed a guy, Joe Torre, who was a buddy of mine from Atlanta. And then they had a year in 96, really kind of a miracle year.
It was also the year that I battled breast cancer the entire year, and the Yankees really took care of me. It was wonderful, and I remember Jimmy Key, the night they won, saying to me, you know, you're part of this too, as he gave me a glass of champagne, and I felt like I had won.
Waldman beat breast cancer, but it's not surprising. She's always been a fighter, leading her to become a pioneer in sports broadcasting. She was the first voice heard on WFAN radio when the All Sports radio station launched in 1987. At the time, she was one of only a few women in sports broadcasting. When Waldman became the first woman to call Major League Baseball as a full-time radio announcer, she then became the first woman in 2009 to call a World Series game. These are only a few of her firsts as a woman in sports. But it wasn't always easy for Waldman, who continued overcoming obstacles to get to where she is today.
At the beginning here, I'd gone through, you know, being spit at by players and death threats and all the things that went with being a woman in sports in the 80s, excuse me. And it was, so, you know, once you get through that, I got through this, and once you get through cancer, and I'm still here 22 years later, and, you know, so there's nothing you can't do. If you can conquer cancer, and it'll be 23 years in January, so that's something that I think I'm more proud of that than anything else.